Hey guys, what's up? This is week 53. I just want to let you guys know that the MVD Rewind contest is still going on. Link will be right below. You can win the first 9 releases from the MVD Rewind collection. That includes stuff like Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, DOA, Lionheart, Return of Swamp Thing, and Abominable, the Sasquatch movie. So it's a really cool competition. All you have to do is like the MVD Rewind Facebook page and also click on the contest link and add your email address to it, and you'll be entered to win. Also, I want to remind you guys I have a Twitter, an Instagram, a letterbox, and on Facebook I have a Mrparka horror reviews group. I post in there first. All this stuff is, there's a Screaming Toilet Facebook page. All this stuff I post, pictures here and there. And, I like to have people, hit me up on there as well. I'm not very big on Twitter. I'm not really sure what I'm doing on there exactly yet. But, the more like tweets and retweets and stuff, it all helps me out, so I appreciate that. But let me hop right into the reviews. The first one I will be covering is Death Smiles on a Murderer. This is from Arrow Video, and this is a Joe D'Amato movie. I've never seen this one. This one's made in '73. It's kind of an interesting movie. A lot of Joe D'Amato and Jess Franco movies are getting released lately. It's like they're releasing everything. And I had not seen this one, so it was kind of cool to see this. This one has Klaus Kinski in it. He's barely in it. And it also stars, I believe she was a Swedish actress, and she had a small career. She was in the movie Candy, which had a bunch of big celebrities in there, including Ringo Starr. Death Smiles on a Murder. This is a very bizarre movie. It's kind of a giallo, I guess, in some ways. It's a mystery, but it's about life and death, and there's some science things going on in here. And to be honest, it's a little inept, but the Tim Lucas commentary clears a lot of this up. I would really recommend checking out that commentary. It actually pushes the movie, it elevates it a little bit for sure. The plot of this movie is as follows. There's a carriage, it crashes at these rich people's houses. The driver dies, and there's a girl unconscious inside. They bring her in. The husband and wife both become infatuated with her. Klaus Kinski's this doctor that comes to help her, and he finds this weird necklace on her that has this these words on there. He understands them. There's this weird narration. You learn that on that necklace is the secret to life. This girl had a very strange past with her brother, and he mentions that she had died and whatnot. This is all in the very beginning of the movie, so it's not really spoiler territory. So you know something's going on with her. And the husband and wife get jealous. Something happens to the poor girl that's very Poish, and people's bodies start to turn up. You realize that all these people are somewhat related, including the maid, including the husband's father. All these people are sort of intertwined, and it becomes somewhat of a love story. What's cool about it is Joe D'Amato was a cinematographer before this, so he has a nice eye, and you don't realize the layers of voyeurism in this. The Tim Lucas commentary pointed that out, and I said, you know what? This is a lot more complex and much better than you would expect, because we have a point of view, somebody looking through a door, and they're looking at Klaus Kinski. They're looking at this woman on the bed, but they see Klaus Kinski looking down at him. He's looking in a mirror, and he's looking in that mirror, and behind him is the girl. So it's like a double layer of voyeurism, and I was like, man, that is crazy perversity. Only something that a cinematographer would try to do when he became a director. Klaus Kinski, unfortunately, is wasted in the role. He's very strange, and he's there to kind of do a bunch of information dump on what's going on, and then just get out of there as fast as possible. But he's interesting. He's intense as always. There's a lot of kills in this movie, and it's kind of strange what happens in here. It's a really crazy movie about people being brought back to life, about revenge, and it has these elements of Edgar Allan Poe stories in there with the Casa of Montiano, which is the thing that I saw right away, and even the Black Cat, which is shoehorned in there, which is shoehorned in so many Italian horror movies. Fulci's Black Cat, Two Evil Eyes by Dario Argento, and even Sergio Martino took a tackle at it. And if I'm not mistaken, maybe Luigi Cozzi did one too, which was one of the Demon sequels, which I haven't seen. Unofficial Demon sequels, like 5 or 6 or something like. It's called The Black Cat, so I'm assuming maybe I shouldn't do that. But so yeah, the Poe and Italian horror films go way back. But that's kind of interesting. Like I said, it has some nice camera work. There's some nasty gore in here. There's some sleaze, of course. Can't get a Joe D'Amato movie without some sleaze. But there's a shotgun blast to the face, which kind of surprised me. Some nice gory things. Luciano Rossi's in this, who pops up in the Corleone movies. Death Walks at Midnight, Death Walks at High Heels. There's a short interview with Joe D'Amato on here, which looks like it was taken from the long interview, which I've seen years back. And there's an interview with the actress from Candy in here, and that's really interesting. She's very, she's straight to the point. She's like, that one wasn't very good. That was interesting. I didn't get along with that person. But she's not crude. She's not bitter, but she seems like she knows what her career was, and she's grateful it happened. And I really enjoyed that. I really liked that interview. It was really conducted well, and it's brand new. There's a commentary, like I said, with Tim Lucas, who elevates this movie. At first I was looking at somewhere like average. I was like, man, this is very average. And after I watched it, I was like, this is a little better than average. And Joe D'Amato and John Roland and like Jess Franco, they're acquired taste. It's almost like when you like sushi or something. When you first try it or when you hear about it, you're like, I don't know about that when you're younger, but the more you have it, the more you experiment with stuff, you start to appreciate some of the things that you never knew you could appreciate. And I would say that about D'Amato and those guys. And I enjoyed this one. Like I said, it's not perfect, but the cinematography is super weird. There's strange times when there's point of view camera and you're like, who's the point of view here? Is that a misdirection or what's going on? I don't know. The score is decent if I remember correctly. I remember the score being solid. It's a fairly like bizarre, solid, almost semi-experimental release, a movie, but it's a nice release. Good. It looks good, sounds good. I think it has the Italian and the English versions on there. Death Smiles on a Murderer. If you love Italian cinema, I would recommend picking it up. I can't do without the Italian stuff. I have to have it. Everything, so.
I begin to doubt whether I'll ever solve this mystery. Somehow, it just doesn't add up. It's a complex and difficult case. A touch of the supernatural. So many corpses, and every death a mystery. What is the connection between these deaths? Then, just to complicate everything, we open the tomb of that strange girl today, empty.
You were playing with me, Greta. I hate you now. No! No, Ava! What are you doing?
Okay, the next one here is the Bloodthirsty trilogy from Toho. This is an Arrow video release, but this is from Toho, the guys that brought Godzilla. There's 3 movies in here. In the early 70s, everybody knows there was just tons and tons of Dracula movies. Like when I was fooling around with doing like that, I asked everybody, should I do, a horror movie from 1970 every week, and at the end give a top 10, do 52 movies. I was looking at the list and I was like, geez, these are all vampire movies. Everything's a vampire movies, and one of these is actually from 1970. It's 3 movies: Vampire Doll, Lake of Dracula, and Evil of Dracula. Vampire Doll being made in 1970, I believe. Lake of Dracula 71, and the final Evil of Dracula 1974. These are Japanese Dracula or vampire stories more so, and they're fairly strange and different. They have a great color palette. They all look like they kind of take place in like a fall time. They have like slightly drained, but they look beautiful. They look great. They're reminiscent of Hammer films, the look and the feel, the gothic feel at times, but they create their own mythology. It's not necessarily like the mythology in your typical vampire movies, although a lot of vampire movies, the mythology is all over the place depending on where it comes from and who decides to write it and whatnot. But I guess the images, how it looks, and you can see that this stuff kind of inspired, or was probably even before this, with the ghost stories with the long hair and stuff, and a lot of the looks, the pale looks and stuff, kind of inspired future ghost stories, or was inspired by previous ghost stories in here. So yeah, these are interesting pieces. Vampire Doll, it starts off kind of similar to the original Bram Stoker's Dracula, where somebody's on their way to this isolated location to meet somebody. They're going to meet their fiance, but when they get there, they find out she's dead, and nothing seems right. The mother's kind of odd about it, and you soon find out, of course, she's a vampire. And people start to disappear. Some people come for him, and that's kind of the story here. The reveal is insane. It's crazy. It's head scratchingly weird, involving hypnosis and whatnot. And I thought that was kind of interesting mythology in itself. And it has it turns into like a mystery halfway through the movie. Like you have the cool guy, like vampire stuff in the beginning, the really nice imageries and stuff, and a really nasty real life crow murder in there. So yeah, beware. But and then it turns into like a by the numbers mystery. Like we got to figure out what happened, and that's kind of like in the middle. These do kind of lose their steam a little bit, but they are interesting. That's Vampire Doll, and at the end you find out a crazy, really bizarre reveal. The second one was Lake of Dracula, and let me think how this one follows. I can't even. They're kind of blurring together. On the first disc, Kim Newman's on there, and he talks about. He just says 16-minute short about the movies, and he talks about him. He's like, I have trouble remembering all these movies, to be honest. It's like, the ones in the school, the ones with the and whatnot. But they all kind of bleed together. They look good and they all sound good, but they all kind of bleed into the same movie, which I kind of like. But yeah, Lake of Dracula. This coffin just shows up out of nowhere, and and it's very similar again to like a Dracula story. The guy says, "What is this? I don't know what to do." And he calls the place, and nobody wants his coffin. Turns out, of course, it's a vampire. It starts to turn people into vampires in the area and whatnot. And this one has this strange story about this girl. Think Zombie 4, where she has this weird flashback that she was there before, and she starts to have this dream in the very beginning where it ties in with the vampire at the end, and it's kind of bizarre. Again, very weird. Involving hypnosis, I believe, again, or the last one does. They have like these reoccurring themes that come back and whatnot. So they involves this hypnosis where she had in her past, and they mix together, and that's kind of clever how they do that. But I did notice a little bit of plot holes in this kind of way. Like the vampire is in this town, and they decide they have no reason to think that the vampire has left this new town, and they decide to go back to her old town to discover what that's in her subconscious, to figure out what's happening in the new. Like they're correlated, they're related, but it doesn't make sense. And then of course, for story's sake, the vampire's back in the old town, and everything's revealed about her past and whatnot. That stuff's a little sloppy to me. It looks really good, like I said. I like the this one has like a little bit of lake in there and stuff, and the body's in a lake. I kind of like that stuff. It looks fairly decent, and there's this character in here. He also is in the first film, Vampire Doll. He's also in Lake of Dracula, and he plays kind of like this kind of dimwitted Igor type character, or I guess I'd say a Renfield type helper. And he's really fun and really kind of entertaining in both the movies. The last one is Evil of Dracula, and I think this one has the most interesting plot and probably the most going on for it. This one takes place in a school. The school is amazingly scary looking. Like the scene where they pull up, the main character pulls up to the school. He's a teacher. He's coming into this new area, so he immediately feels like an outsider, which is a great setup. And he's pulling up to the school, and you see it, and it does a point of view of the school, and you just are there. You feel like you're there. It does a really good setup about that. And he learned that he's going to become the new principal, and that means something else too as it progresses later on. The school's kind of strange, and one of the girls keep getting sick, and you learn very quick who the vampire is. And of course it has these ideas, like the first one, somebody's dead, but they don't really seem dead. They're keeping the body hidden, or the body's nowhere to be found, stuff like that. And this one of the professors and the new teachers start to dig around, and these three schoolgirls, one who's been bitten, who is kind of slightly changing, they discover what's going on. Nobody believes them, of course, and there's this character in a mental institution, and he has secrets. So again, it turns into a mystery on what's going on. Everything is revealed, and it's a doozy. There's some strange flashbacks in this one, and this one has it's just crazy. They're all crazy like this, but I like some of the mythos where they're not too like happy endings here. They're not always, they're kind of dark in a lot of ways. The endings are a little sad. And at moments, I think all three of them have moments of kind of a graphic gore, which is kind of surprising. A throat slice here, and it has the classic Japanese blood spray, which kind of surprised me. And this one actually has a decent amount of nudity. The vampire tends to bite the women on the breast. You know how vampires are. So there's some, bitten breast here and there, and that was kind of surprising. And of course, they frame so they can block out, genital nudity in this one, for sure. But they're an interesting bunch. The only real special feature on here is the trailers and the interview with Kim Newman, which was very insightful. And even he seems to think that they played together quite a bit, but he enjoyed them, and he goes over the history of Japanese horror quite a bit. It's nice seeing that on there, and it's a nice release. They look good, and I'm interested in this kind of stuff. I didn't really know a lot of these Japanese films existed like this. You get the ghost stories, and you get like the Yakuza movies and the Godzilla movies, and then when I was like, oh, I assume they had vampire movies and things like that, but I had never seen them, so it's really cool that Arrow's releasing some of this stuff.
There are lots of characters and lots of incident, but at the end they sort of fade like dreams.
This one here, Disembodied. This is from Brink Vision. This is a weird one, guys. This is a real weird one. I don't know where I'm going with this. This one's low budget, 98. It's got to be shot on film. It looks like it's shot on film. Some of it's in full screen, some of it's in widescreen. There's a black and white version on here, so and I imagine like I don't know if the widescreen versions are like shot later, and like this is an incompleted film, and they went back and completed it later. I can't find much information on it, but it feels like that in a sense. This is super weird, super low budget, super grimy looking, and the acting not perfect. Some of the actors are better than others, but this feels like a I don't know how to say this, like a regenerated man type movie meets like a Frank Henenlotter movie. Yeah, it feels really grimy and weird, science gone wrong. We have this character who's carrying around a brain, and she has this strange pimple on her face that, shoots out this weird stuff that turns people into these strange little creatures that are somewhat alive. Has some weird digital effects in the movie. Sometimes they look all right, sometimes they look a little rough, and we have these flashes because this brain that she has in her jar, which I believe is her brain, if something happens to a certain extent, her dreams can become a reality, and the dreams start to bleed into reality, and things get really weird, and we have all these weird characters who are in this hotel, and she's renting out this grimy room, and she's next door to a prostitute who's the best character and the best actress in the movie. She's actually really, really fun, and I like that they humanize the prostitute, instead of making her like, just a throwaway character, or like, I kind of like when they do that kind of stuff, and she's actually the most caring and best, nicest character in the whole movie, so that was cool. And the funniest. So we have that going on. She befriends this prostitute who's next door to her. The bellkeep is really gross, full of pimples, seems like an alien himself. This doctor's after this woman because she's infected with this parasite, or she is this parasite, and it just gets really crazy, really weird. Like I said, reality and fantasy and dream world start to bleed together at points. There's holes in walls, people looking through walls, and goo, and it's just crazy. Super bizarre movie. Kind of reminds me of like something like Slime City as well. It's just dirty, and I don't want to be there where they're at, but it's also goofy and silly, and there's scenes that only have like one angle on them, and there's just a lot of talking for long periods of times. But it's interesting, and there's some miniatures in here for like the dream sequences that I kind of appreciated. They're not, like the set, it seems like clay, and they made the sets and stuff, and that stuff looks really cool. And I appreciate their ambition. I like movies with this kind of ridiculous science fiction edge where it's like, I don't know what their science methods are with coming up with this stuff, but I don't believe it, but I love it anyways because the outcome is so crazy and different, and you can just do anything when it comes to science fiction horror like stuff. You can just, I want these little creatures crawling, I want reality to bleed into fantasy, like Beyond Dream's Door, stuff like that. Just low budget, strange movies that are kind of one of a kind. I don't love it, but it's super weird, and I think people should check it out if they like these kind of crazy movies. Watch the trailer. It's a weird movie. The next one here is The Creeps from Full Moon. This was, I believe, 98. Charles Band actually did this one himself, and it's been years since I've seen The Creeps. All right, the plot of The Creeps is the best part. It has some genuine love for the Universal monster movies, and it's just very playful in its plot. We have, and again, ridiculous science that doesn't make any sense. We have this kind of scientist who is super intelligent and a bunch of stuff, folklore, all sorts of. He's educated a bunch of things, and he's stealing all these original or first oldest editions of literary arts he can find, like Bram Stoker's Dracula, or Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, or a book about a mummy, probably Bram Stoker's Mummy, and maybe a book about a werewolf, which I don't know any off the top of my head that are classic. And he wants these books, and he's created this device that for some reason he can bring back these monsters, or bring these monsters from the books into reality. And it's very strange what happens. But he, of course, screws it up, and they come back half size. They come back, and what's really great is Phil Fondacarlo plays Dracula. And right when I was watching this, again, rewatching, I was like, it's so cool to see Phil Fondacarlo from stuff like Troll or Ghoulies 2 or Bordello of Blood actually get to play like a bad heavy in a movie and not be like, I know they're playing into the fact that, oh, he is a small person and it's funny, but it's also the fact that he's always been such a good actor and taken his roles like very seriously and always done a good job. And he has that Shakespeare dialogue in the Coolies too that he always says. So it was nice to see him, and he can play Dracula. It's just that he would never get the chance to say it. And he even says that in the video zone at the end. It's just like, I told you, I knew he felt like that, and I knew he was going to deliver the goods. He's by far the best actor in the movie. Everyone else is, the monsters are fine, but everyone else is a little hammy, a little cheesy, and this whole movie is hamming it up. This is a cheese fest. So what happens is the monsters come out and they want to be full size, and the doctor kind of wants to control them, but he's a buffoon. He's a kind of a wimp, and that's not what happens here. They need this girl who is part of the original equation, a librarian, to bring these monsters to full size. And of course, she hires a private eye because he stole the books. She doesn't want to get in trouble from her overbearing lesbian boss who always is hitting on her. It's that type of movie. So yeah, this is what happens. Basically, the monsters chase them through a library trying to get the books. Wolfman drools. Frankenstein and the mummy drag their feet. Frankenstein's monster, I should say. Sorry, guys. Drag their feet, and Count Dracula spews a lot of great lines. That's what happens here. The dialogue is mostly silly. And some of it's delivered very poorly, almost purposely campy. Like I said, Phil Fondacarlo is great. I hope I'm saying his name correctly. I like the concept. I think the concept's beautiful. Any way you can get a monster mash, like Waxwork or Monster Squad or anything like that. I love that stuff. When you get as Mad Monster Party, you get as much of these classic monsters in a movie you can get, or even like Neon Maniacs. I love that kind of stuff. So this one is enjoyable, even though it has a lot of shortcomings. Yeah, there we go. But it doesn't look particularly great. I don't know what the remaster was, or the movie's just kind of low budget in the first place. But watching the video zone, or at the end, full moon video zone at the end, I was like, okay, and they were talking about, we have Bride of Head of the Family coming out, and I was like, that never came out. And they're like, Curse of the Puppet Master just got finished, and I was like, oh, this is right at the tail end of Full Moon. Like, this is right when they start to see like the seams, like the wheels start to fall off. And I mean, like, because I loved the early Full Moon stuff growing up. Like, I loved, Puppet Master movies up to a certain extent. Subspecies, I know people like those, and the Trancers movies, and Demonic Toys, and Doll Man, and stuff like that. They had a lot of fun stuff. Hideous, and this is, like, right at the end with, like, Hideous and Curse of the Puppet Master, where, like, they kind of changed their model and stopped making movies like they used to, over in Romania and stuff. But The Creeps, if it sounds like it's something you'll like, you'll know. I'm sure a lot of people have seen it. It's stupid. It's ridiculous. It's not particularly great in any aspect, but it's very short, and I enjoy it. And Phil Fondacarlo, when he talks to all the monsters, and he says, how could I forget these, and he gives these speeches, is actually really good. And it's really good. That stuff's well written. I think that the dialogue or the writing is not particularly great in every aspect, but that is really good there. And I think that the delivery probably hurts a lot of the writing, more so than the actual writing. But that's The Creeps.
Our time again.
Okay, I told you guys I was going to be doing this new segment where, I had you guys vote on it, and the one that won was me doing a movie that's not on DVD or Blu-ray stateside. So I decided to go over and grab one off my shelf, and one I'd never seen called Terror in the Swamp. Yeah, by Billie Holiday. I also had a bootleg. I watched the bootleg. It's cropped to fit my big TV, but Terror in the Swamp. I put this in. Didn't know much about it. Made 1985. I was like, I thought it was a Bigfoot movie by the case. I was like, okay, we're going to see a grass man or a Bigfoot in the swamp. Because I like to go in as blind as possible. And as it progressed, I was like, okay, this might be fun. Some Hicksploitation meets some Bigfoot movie. And as I'm watching, it opens up, okay, there's a attack on this hunter, whatnot. There's a lot of point of view and a lot of growling, which is kind of silly, but it's in a swamp and it's on location, and I got to give it up to the guys for making the movie in the swamp. A lot of the filmmakers in the credits, I noticed, are actually starring in the movie too, so I was like, okay, we're going to do this. The movie basically follows, it's not a Bigfoot movie, which blew my mind. I didn't know it was not a Bigfoot movie, to be honest. So I'm watching, and there's like, you find out there's these scientists out there doing these experiments, and somebody made a mistake and something escaped. They were doing experiments on nutrias, I believe what they're called, which is another word for a giant sewer rat of some sort. And I didn't know what a nutria was. I had to look it up, or they have another voice, another name like Koyo. I don't know. But I was like, what? What are they saying? I looked it up and I was like, oh, it's those things. Those giant water rats, or sewer rats, or what they are. So this movie's about a man-sized sewer rat, or like a Nutrija man thing. So I was like, okay, I'm in even more now. Of course, there's a game warden trying to catch this thing. There's a couple of hillbillies out there, these two big brothers and their buddy, trying to catch him and get revenge on it for something it's done. So we have a lot of people walking in the swamp. Of course, what happens is somebody hangs a sign that says a reward. So all these good old boys with their guns and boats go out there trying to get the reward for this creature. And, people start piling up, getting killed. It's not particularly gory. They don't show the monster very much. They don't film the monster particularly well. They don't show it enough, and they don't show it right when they do. I love the location. I like the brothers. They're both silly. They have kind of a fun thing going on between them. It's really talky. There's moments where they go back to the same location. They do kind of capture this small town like location where the game ward knows everybody's name, and I kind of like that. At points it seems pretty big, like they actually have like planes flying over and stuff like that, and a big cast. But the ending seems to fall apart, and it doesn't really deliver particularly well. There's a couple great moments, like the image of the creature, like on the cover, outside of like a window, is actually scary. This is, like I said, people died, but this could probably be PG-13. I don't really see a reason to rate it. There's no particularly anything sleazy or nudity in here, like people pop up dead. Might be some language of sorts. But the highlight really is the two Cajun boys out in the Trappers. And the brothers and their interactions. One's really heavy, and there's a scene where they're walking for like 5 minutes, and the guy's just struggling through the swamp. So I got to give him credit for actually making it in a swamp. I love swamp movies like Gator Bait and stuff like that, and even Junior, A Cut Above, the 1985 one, made the same year as this, I believe. So I like that kind of stuff, but it fell real short, man. It had so much potential. I think that this is a great movie for a remake. Terror in a Swamp, about a rat man, no CGI, rat man with these razor sharp claws going around, and everybody's trying to stop him and catch him, but they keep, getting in each other's way and whatnot. More monster, less talking, better special effects or gore effects would have pushed this one a little bit further. But I'm a little sad that my first VHS venture for this year thing is kind of a dud. That's Terror in the Swamp. You know what? If Vinegar Syndrome picked this up and cleaned it up, like, it's a New World Pictures, so maybe Scream Factory's going to release this. I know they picked up the Corman stuff, but if they picked this up and cleaned it up, you know what? It might be a little bit better, because at times the picture's dark, and it would be really nice to see the locations in HD, but Terror in the Swamp, it's up to you guys, man. I don't know.
Them traps in the wildlife refuge. Yeah, Paul, by tomorrow, them traps gonna be full. T-Bob, go over to Harley's and see if you can get some more traps, and we'll set them in the morning.
All right, let's celebrate.
All right, I'll get a jug of shine. Bubba, can you spend the night?
Hell yeah!
All right. Say, Bubba.
What?
You know how many cages it takes to eat possum?
How many?
Two.
Two.
Yeah. One to eat and one to watch the road for cars.
What? You know what, Jesse?
What's that, Paul?
We got that damn bug drug, too. Oh, this time tomorrow, we're gonna be a rich bunch. Hell yeah! We on our way.
Oh.
Jesse, get that flashlight behind. Damn it, boy, didn't I tell you to fix that generator?
Oh, I did, Paul.
Must have run out of gas.
What's wrong? What's wrong? We're going our way to get you to Harley's. What's going on?
It was Pa's leg, Jesse. I know it was Pa. Jesse, what happened? I know it was Pa, Jesse. He's dead. I saw his leg.
Where, T-Bob? Where?
On the trail.
Oh, no. We were drunk last night, me and Bubba. Papa and Joe went out to fix the generator. We heard it scream like we did that day in the marsh.
That's right, T-Bob. We run outside and took a couple of shots at it, but it dragged your paw off in the marsh.
We were too drunk to track it at night.
That's right, T-Bob. We lit out at daybreak. We done picked up some tracks headed that way.
Killed Pa, Jesse. What are we gonna do? How are we gonna get along, Jesse?
Don't worry, T-Bob. I'll take care of you. I promise you this. I don't know what that thing was, but I'm gonna catch it. I'll kill it. I'll skin it alive!
What are we gonna do without Pa, Jesse? He taught us everything we know.
Don't you fret none, T-Bob. Come on with us.
Jesse's right. We're gonna get whatever it was that killed your paw.
Come on. Across the swamp. Going on Poacher's Cove. We're gonna pick up some of that stuff we got down there. And we're gonna find whatever it was that got Paul. And we're gonna fix his wagon for sure. I guarantee. Come on.
Okay, we're here to review Endless Poetry by Alejandro Jodorowsky. This is the pick of the week. Yeah, this was made in 2016. It's crazy to think that Alejandro Jodorowsky was making movies in like the late 60s, early 70s, and that those movies that I've seen were really good, and he's still sharp in this. Like, this is a super interesting movie, to be honest. And he can't cast himself. Well, he does, sort of, to play the lead, but he casts his son, as similarly how he did in, like, Santa Sangre. But this is, what would you call this? Like,
I think the technical term is biomythography.
it's kind of like a biography, but it is mixed with fantasy elements of his life. And he is the narrator himself, and he comes in and he speaks to himself and tells him things. This won't matter, or this will do this. And it's such a unique movie. It's like he's reliving his past through a fantasy like telling, and he's dealing through a lot of things too, like at points with his father and whatnot. It's a story of a young man growing up in Chile. Jodorowsky was from he's Chilean. Is that how you say it?
Chilean?
Yeah, Chilean. And he moved to France and became a director. But before, he was a poet here, apparently. And he's lived a very interesting life. Very unique movie, to be honest. And right in the opening, you see them bring all these like black and white things, and it's like you're going back in time. And it's so weird, and you can just tell the production value and all the stuff that went into this was no like half-assed lazy manner. It's like he said, like I've heard in what he said, he's like, I don't make movies unless I have something to say, and you can really tell with this.
Yeah. It's a beautiful movie. Like, just what you're talking about, him making movies with, like the amount of crowds he was able to get. Like,
yes.
even looking at the cover, like, that's a scene in the movie.
I was like, how does he orchestrate all this stuff so well? It's like he has, like, a limitless things at his fingertips, and usually guys like that, he probably didn't, but he's just really good at getting people together. He seems to be a guy that could probably talk to people, but he always seems to have limitless things at his fingertips, and every picture in this movie is like a painting. It's the production value is great. I would compare it to like something like on the lines of like Shape of Water, and production value and fantasy elements mixed in with reality.
Yeah, Shape of Water. There's a few other movies I've seen that are very similar.
Who's the director of Amelie? I feel that his movies are kind of like that, but darker, like Delicatessen and stuff like that.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I can't remember his name.
No,
but yeah, and this is such an interesting movie. It's very funny as well. It's hilarious, and it's heartfelt and touching all in the same breath. He is this young man, and his parents, his mother is always in singing, and it's like she's from a musical. Like she's like a trap bird, like with the father, because the father is very aggressive and just very violent, and you know he has to be tough. Men are tough, and he doesn't want his son being a poet, and he pushes this on him all the time. And you know, of course, he lashes out, and he shows grow up and you know grow up through time and meet these strange artists and have these he goes through his whole life and until a point till he moves to France, and that's where the movie ends, and you see his early childhood. And it's barely sweet at times. It's very touching, especially when he comes in himself and narrates it and says these things. It's like he's reliving the moment with us, and it adds you into the world. I really felt it. I really did. And there's lots of bizarre characters in here. Again, he always has that thing with people with physical abnormalities, like a guy without hands. There's that scene. There's another short person in this one, and there's even a love scene between a short person and a normal person. I don't want to say normal like they're abnormal, but you know what I mean, physical abnormality for sure. But yeah, it's just super interesting and like very unique. And at the end with the father, like he's dealing with these father issues in the movie. Like you can tell he's like, no, I wish I would have said this, or I should have said this, or he deserved this much, negative or positive. He deserved that.
He deserved that. It's like, you ever feel like that, like if you could go back in time and like tell yourself, you know, certain things at key moments. That's what he's doing in this, is because he plays himself, I guess, modern day.
Yes.
And it's his children and maybe
and one of his kids. No, one of his kids plays him as throughout most of the movie.
Right, and so he goes. So you watch the whole scene with his son, like acting out whatever was going on in his life at that time, and then towards the end of pretty much each scene or each major chapter, he appears and he has a conversation and a dialect with him, and it opens up to the next chapter.
It brushes over like a lot of important things through life, figuring out what you want to do in life, making huge decisions. And you know what? Like, it's such a beautiful moment when he goes back to like the old like poet and he says, no, you're wrong.
Yeah.
I'm going to do things my way. And you know what? I mean, I don't know how well off he is financially. I would imagine so fairly well, but I know that he's become one of the most respected filmmakers of all time. So there's that. So, I mean, in a way, he lived his life how he wanted. It's a 1 in a million story. And stuff like that. He goes over like a first love. And I like that at times you'll see like, since it's like the 40s or 50s at times, you're like, oh, we have the Nazi symbolism for fascists here. It's a fascist regime, and that's all in the background, but it's in the back of the movie at the whole time. And then later, you'll see like a couple of the parents are completely zoned out, and they'll be like, they're listening to Cold War stuff, Cold War battles. So it's like, this is all to the backdrop of certain time eras, and they're just brushed over very quickly. But at the end, it does play a major importance. Like, it's like that was there the whole time, and they weren't addressing it, but it was there. And it mattered to them, I guess, at the end. But the ending really is heartfelt. Like it was tough for me, like,
Yeah,
to watch.
Mm-hmm. And the father was a great actor.
He was also a Jodorowsky.
Maybe was he?
Maybe the director's like brother or something. I don't know. He was tremendous. The acting in the movie's tremendous, to be honest. And I would say that the father was probably one of the strongest points, and the lead, because he had a complex role to play.
I like the mother girlfriend. She was my absolute favorite. Like, the mother was interesting to begin with.
Oh yeah.
But then when she does the girlfriend, like that to me is like it's a character.
Was that the same actress?
Yeah. That's
No.
the same. You didn't realize?
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
realize that.
Yeah, no, dude. Like it took me a while. Like.
Are you serious? It's the same actress?
Same actress, and when she got her haircut, yeah, I swear, I even looked it up.
That blew my mind.
Yeah, like the way
it makes
that
sense,
the,
though. It
the
makes sense.
Well, because it's like that,
Yes.
like Oedipus complex,
Yes,
and you
yeah,
fall with
yeah,
your
yeah.
mother, but at the same time rebel against your parents. So she was
Yeah.
a complete rebellion.
Yeah.
But the girlfriend especially, she had like style. She was everything I wanted to be in life and failed. Like
There's this really beautiful moment at the end, like, because you see the black and white stuff like that, and you're like, the black and white like pictures being brought up and pulled down, and it's like, and then you see all these pictures of the individuals throughout the movies, and there's like these little like ghosts, like Day of the Dead kind of like skeletons behind them. You're like, oh, ghost of the past. Isn't that such a beautiful thing? Ghosts of the past. And it's like, God, I wish I still had my memories when I'm that age, and he's so sharp. It's just like amazing to see that, like, and he's a director that I slept on for years. I bought his movies and just never watched. Like, I was like, oh, I'll get to them. I knew they were going to be good, but I just never watched them when I should have, and I regret it,
I was in the beginning of the movie, they have like the stage hands, like the people in all black, and they kind of disappear throughout the movie, and I wondered what they meant or symbolized.
I'm not sure. Maybe
like in the beginning, they're like taking props from characters, and they're
Yes.
doing scene changes and like any kind of like weird mechanical work,
like
they
a
have to
live
do.
play.
Like
almost.
a live play, and then about like maybe I think it's about the time that he does the thing with the cousin, and it kind of
They come back one other time. And I wonder if it's like a convenience, like only if this were real life, or things I didn't want anymore would be gone, the convenience of film.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure, but there's like lots of great stuff in here, and lots of interesting characters, and just interesting moments in general, and just stuff that you won't see anywhere else in any other movies. And they're not just, there's like, he's obsessed with, surreal moments, but I would say, unlike a David Lynch, who sometimes his things you could study all day and not come up with what they are, I think there's a lot in here, and I think that there is something in here every time.
Yeah, these things, they seem significant, and even
They correlate to each other.
They correlate to each other, and even if we're like removed from some cultures, like you kind of understand what's going on.
Yeah.
You pick up on the cues. David Lynch, I don't know.
I love David Lynch.
I love him.
Like,
Yeah.
a lot of that stuff. You're like, maybe it's open for interpretation, or maybe there's nothing to interpret.
He's just doing stuff,
Not necessarily
Not
true,
necessarily,
but like a Eraserhead and stuff.
Yeah.
Like that. You're like, it means one basic thing, but for years you sit there and try to decipher what every little scene means, and as a whole it means something to you. Maybe it means something else to somebody else. But like, you feel like in this movie, it's very emotional, very heartfelt. It's great, and it's so different than Santa Sangre and El Topo, but it's also not. I mean, it's there. You can tell it's the same guy, and it's like the perfect. It's different enough to be away from those movies, but you could tell it's from the same brain, and I like that. It's a great movie. Some nice features on here, which I didn't get a chance to watch as well, but interview with him and whatnot. He's an interesting guy, interesting director. This, I believe, was a Christopher Dallaire pick, and I'm glad he picked it. It's good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
¿Cuál es el sentido de la vida?
El cerebro hace preguntas, el corazón da las respuestas. La vida no tiene sentido. ¡Vive! ¡Vive!
Poesía, alumbrarás mi camino como una mariposa que arde. Voy a ser poeta.
Te vas a morir de hambre.
¡Familia de mierda!
Alejandro Jodorowsky, démosle la bienvenida.
Soy artista, soy poeta.
¿Por qué hacen eso?
Hope you guys enjoyed that review with Jeremy. Let's get into the Pick a Movie. If you want to enter the Pick a Movie, all you got to do is just leave a comment on the YouTube video or the Screaming Toilet page and say, I'd like to be entered. You can ask a question while you're at it. But, if you didn't get drawn, I'll keep you in until you do get drawn. That's how I'm going to do it from now on. We have Alex Christensen. I don't remember what you asked me to review, but I know you just posted on there recently. I'll go look it up. But the person who won last time was Something Prang, and they picked a movie. I think it's kind of hard to find, so if something happens where I can't find it, I'll do this one first, then that one. So somebody will jump ahead, but I'll get to your movie. So, okay, let's hop into the Q&A. Nick, please share your thoughts on Darren Aronofsky's Mother. Masterpiece or overrated? Horror film or dark parable? Man, I don't know. It has horror elements in it, but I wouldn't necessarily call it a horror film. But if somebody did say it was a horror film, it's definitely like a genre film. I wouldn't argue with them too much. I enjoyed it. I don't know if it's a masterpiece, overrated, underrated. I mean, that kind of thing comes with time, and it's not old enough. Why do you think that post-apocalyptic and disaster films are all the rage now? I'm not sure. Because we're on the brink of nuclear war. I'm just kidding. But at the same time, why do people believe climate change is a fairy tale? Nowadays, if you believe in climate change or you don't, people are so like made up with their mind. Even if somebody provided evidence one way or the other, like hardcore evidence in something, no matter what it was, people just they can't believe anything anymore. It's so hard to see things at face value anymore with the internet, and people also they have their minds made up. They're not willing to keep their mind open when it comes to like political things, period. That's just how people are anymore, or ever probably. What fairy tale that hasn't been adapted yet would make a good horror movie? Oh, that's tough. I mean, I'm not like a fairy tale expert here, but let's just make a funny Mother Goose slasher. Let's take the book Mother Goose. I remember reading that thing when I was young and had all the fairy tales in there. Mother Goose slasher. Because I'm just out of ideas. I know there's Little Red Riding Hood. Humpty Dumpty's probably even been done, right? Fairy tale. I know you're thinking of like Hansel and Gretel, and there's dozens of those. So I'm not really sure off the top of my head. Ben Miller, what video editor do you use, and are there any you recommend for starters? I use Adobe Premiere. I would just use that. I used to use some crappy thing called Cyberlink, but when you actually come to like porting it over to other things, it just doesn't pay off. So start with the program you're going to use forever, because they'll eventually change, but start with the one you're going to use for a long time. I'm no expert in editing, as you can tell, but start with that one because it takes a while to get the hang of anything, and once you get it, you just know it and you feel comfortable with it. So I noticed that Alejandro Jodorowsky box set, and have to ask, how much of the work have you seen? Any favorites, and what do you think of his films? I haven't seen that many. I've only seen the 3 features so far. El Topo, Santa Sangre, and Endless Poetry. I know I need to see Dance of Reality, Holy Mountain, Fondo, and Lise, and he did some other ones, Tusk, and there's something else, I can't think of it, but some of them are kind of hard to find. I think they're great. I think he has a unique vision. I think he's one of a freaking kind. But yeah, let me hop into the update here. Okay, guys, we're going to hop right into the update. First one, I picked up the American release of The Void. It was dirt cheap. It was like $9 on Blu-ray on Amazon. This movie has great special effects, and it almost was my favorite movie of the year, but a couple things really held it back for me, and it came in like above average, but I just need to watch it again, but there's a lot of things with characters that really hurt it for me. But, I think it's very well made in a lot of ways, but the script and some of the character things just kind of really bothered me. But I love it, and I kind of hate parts of it at the same time. Blade of the Immortal from Magnet, I believe this is a Magnet. Yeah, this is Takashi Miike's 100th movie. I'm not super familiar with his work. I have a bunch of them. But this is his 100th movie, so I grabbed it. Good price. Again, it was on sale on Amazon. I know that Derek from the Cinema Attack podcast loves him. We have a code red here, Terror Within 2. It's been years since I saw the first Terror Within. I don't even have the double feature that comes with Dead Space from the Corman collection, but I do have the old New Concord disc. But this was on sale at the Dark Force Cartel. I've never seen it. It looks like a monster sci-fi one. So yeah, it's the Terror Within 2. Not a bad price on that. Then we have another from Code Red, or it's Scorpion actually. This is House on Sorority Row. Look at that nice slipcover. New scan and everything. I believe it has the same features as the new scan, maybe some new ones. It's numbered on there. You know what? It's been a long time since I've seen this one, but I always remember it being one of the better slashers out there. It even came with a little magnet if you ordered in time. That's right, House on Sorority Row magnet. Yeah, cool. You can get that at the Ronin Flick site. Then we have Daughter of Daughter of Dracula? I don't know why I would say Daughter of Darkness, like the other one. But this is a Jess Franco from Redemption. It's got the ones with the spine numbers on there. Not seen this one, but I like Jess Franco for the most part. Won me over. Jess Franco's Punk Shock Erotic Opera Killer Barbys. Yeah, another Redemption title here. Looks fun. Heard it's nonsense. We have the Erotic Rites of Frankenstein, a film by Jess Franco. Not really heard great things about this one from the boys at the they did the Video Nasties podcast, not the Section 3 list. I don't remember what their podcast is called. There's a couple English gents, and they were really funny. They did a good podcast, but they cover this one, and it almost stopped them dead in the tracks in their podcast. But we have one from Scream, The House That Dripped Blood. It's an old Amicus picture with Peter Cushing. I don't know if I've seen this one. A lot of those Amicus ones bleed together. I think this is an anthology. I've seen a lot of those, like Vault of Horror, Tales from the Crypt, From Beyond the Grave, Asylum. And they're very enjoyable. I love anthologies. Some of my favorite stuff. Caged Fury here, another one. A woman in prison movie from Scream Factory. Not seen this. Eric Estrada's in it. I don't know what's going on with that, but the cover. Man, I'm a sucker for, I buy all these women in prison movies and stuff like that, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm ever going to have time to watch all these. It's Alive Trilogy by Larry Cohen. This is a Scream Factory release. Yeah, this is so cool. They got the Warner Brothers deal. What's funny is the first one I remember having a really nice impact on it. I love Larry Cohen. And the second one I thought fell a little flat when I saw it years ago. But I remember the third one just being completely bonkers. Island of the Alive. And it just was a laugh riot all the way through. You know what? Everybody was like, man, Scream's only doing MGM titles. They're burnout, yada, yada, yada. And then all of a sudden we start to see the Warner titles coming in. And then everybody's kind of like eating their words there. But that's awesome. Then we have the Amityville trilogy. Believe it or not, the only ones I've ever seen are the remake. And It's About Time with Stephen Mach, which I love. But never watched these. And so it's like, I have all of them on DVD, but of the original series. But yeah, I'm looking forward to watching the Amityville movies. This is the Scream Factory set. Comes with 1, 2, and 3, the Amityville Horror. I'm really looking forward to watching part 2. Now we're into the DVDs. We have one from Severin. I don't think this was ever released on Blue. Stone. It's a 2-disc. I believe it's an Australian biker movie. I've heard about it for years, never bought it. But the 22 Shots of Moods. And our podcast did an Australian, or they were talking about Australian movies, did an Australian podcast a while back. And they talked about Stone. And Derek and Mood said they liked it quite a bit, so I grabbed it. I walked into this flea market, and they were all $2 a piece on DVD. Some of the cases are marked on, but if it really bothers me, I can replace it. But this is the Lost Battalion by A&E. I saw this movie on TV, I believe, when I was young, and I've always wanted to rewatch it. But yeah, $2. Can't really pass up that. Then we have Black Scorpion. This is sealed still from New Concord, $2 again. Yeah, I've never seen this New Concord disc. Scream Factory probably just bought the rights to this one recently because they got all those Corman titles. This one looks like it's resealed, but it was $2. It is Raptor. I believe this is, you know, aka Carnosaur 4, a part of the series, but it's a new Concord title. I still need Carnosaur 3. I've been holding out for a Blu-ray. I remember the first two, which I own, are very fun. We have another Anchor Bay. Somebody mentioned this. Helen Slater, who I reviewed in Legend of Billie Jean a little bit ago, is in this one. It's Supergirl. I only got it because it was $2. It was an Anchor Bay, and I figured this one's probably out of print. So for $2, it's kind of hard to say no to Supergirl, isn't it? Helen Slater. Then we have this. I already have this edition and everything, but for $2 I couldn't pass up the graphic cover of Maximum Overdrive from Anchor Bay. Love this movie. Never hurts to have a second copy just in case. For $2, can't pass up. I know this is on Blu-ray, but hey, for $2, what is this? Shalako? I can't pronounce anything, but it's Sean Connery, Anchor Bay. $2. I know Kino has it on sale right now for like $8.99, so on Blu-ray. So maybe I made a mistake on that one, but I got some good ones. This one we have Final Countdown on DVD. I know it has some marks on the cover. This has Richard Crenna in it. It's a Blue Underground disc. I don't really see Blue Underground in the wild where I'm at, so I grabbed it for $2. And you know, if audio commentary on here, when I eventually get the Blu-ray, I can listen to the commentary. You know, anywhere. I can rip the files and listen to it at work. That's what I tend to do. And I can't do that with Blu-rays yet. Then we have the Seawolves, $2. I've not seen this. Gregory Peck, David Niven, Roger Moore. That one's probably only worth $2. We have The Net, Sandra Bullock. Haven't seen this in so long. Not since it came out, probably. Still sealed, $2. Why not? I remember a really creepy bad guy in this one, to be honest. Dennis Miller's in this? Jeez, man. That's weird. Been years. The Bedford Incident with Richard Widmark and Sidney Poitier. Or Poitier, however you say his name. From he keeps popping up. I just watched that one with him, a little Nikita. But you know, stuff like In the Heat of the Night. And last is the Smokey and the Bandit 7-movie Outlaw collection for $2. How can I say no to Burt Reynolds? I know he's not in all of them, but come on, guys. Smokey and the Bandit 1 and 2 and 3. How's 3 get its own disc? That's so silly. Then we have these Bandit movies, all of them in there. That's crazy. 7 movies. I know the first couple have been on Blu-ray, but yeah, that's a nice set for $2. It's just to check out the Bandit movies. I'll probably get the Smokey and the Bandits on Blu-ray, but yeah, hope you enjoyed that. That was my update. Until next time, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed everything, the reviews, the questions, the update. As always, thank you very much for watching. Enter the contest. Do everything that you want to do, and give it a like if you enjoyed it. Give it a thumbs down if you didn't. But you guys have a good one.